Welcome to the Patron Saints of Pop Culture Podcast. I'm Miguel Covarrubias.
And I'm Kathy Covarrubias. And today, let's talk about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 3.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and don't forget to review and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Today we are talking about knowing yourself,
how you don't own anyone,
our Saints of Show,
and then of course we'll give you our contact information so you can also join the conversation.
Again, we also want to say thank you for listening. I know that we had a break last week. We had a family emergency. My father is again in the hospital, so just thoughts and prayers for my father would be appreciated as he is going through a difficult health time. Mm-hmm. So, let's get on to our summary and review of Season 3.
I know, I'm just like,
it kind of felt like a really short season to me, but
really, I feel like there was a lot going on. Okay, well, you go first, and then I'll fill in the blanks if necessary.
Mrs. Maisel goes on tour, kind of flubs tour a little bit, and ends up ruining the European tour before it even begins.
All right. I guess I will talk about the other characters. So Susie is now partnered up with Sophie Lennon, and Midge is upset about that. And that conflict kind of runs through the whole season. And then Mrs. Maisel's ex-husband, I can't remember his name. Joel, yeah. So he bought a new club, which is all cool and stuff, but it's hiding a illegal gambling venue behind the back. And then he also has a new girlfriend, so that's exciting too. And I think that's it, right? Wait, is there something about her parents? Her parents are doing something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they lost the house.
Lost the apartment, yeah.
They lost the apartment and they've moved in with their in-laws.
Who are not technically in-laws anymore, but are still in lives because there are kids involved.
Yes. And it's awkward, but also amazing for us viewers.
Yeah. Season 3 was good. It just didn't seem like the stakes were as high as they had been in previous seasons of the show. I do enjoy it. I did find it rather humorous. I found the other two seasons a little bit more funny, but maybe it's just because my state of mind in watching this season.
Well, I think there is a lot more conflict in this season. So, yeah, it was funny, but there was more serious moments because of the conflicts were serious.
Yeah, the conflicts were a little bit more serious.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and then that last episode, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I didn't like it. I really did enjoy it. As far as shows go, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is definitely one of the top ones up there for me. I don't know, maybe it's because at the same time kind of saying goodbye to The Good Place was a little bit more overshadowing of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel for me.
Okay. All right. I mean, I see the value in both of them for sure. This season, like I said, that last episode, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was so hard to watch.
It was almost season 1 of The Office, Michael Scott, cringeworthy.
Oh God, yeah, it was so bad. And I don't know. Just, I want to see what happens next. I do kind of feel bad for her, but then I'm like, well, duh. Of course he'd be like, I don't want you on anymore. But, I mean, we'll talk about that. I'm assuming maybe.
I'm not going to be talking about that, but.
Neither am I, so I guess we're not talking about it. Anyway, if you want to talk about it, you can always comment to us on Facebook or Instagram.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Of course, spoiler alert. If we didn't give
kind
that,
of already.
But,
I think they know by now.
They know by now. Yeah. Anyway, that was my review.
All right. Well, my review was also thrown in there as well.
Okay. All right. So today I wanted to talk about knowing yourself, and this is primarily because I really feel like this is what the characters were trying to do, and I think this is more or less knowing your own faults, not necessarily knowing who you are as an individual. That's more of my season 3 take of our podcast. And I'm not going to be talking about magic, so we're not going to go with my season 4 kind of theme.
You can argue that her outfits were magical.
They are, and that's probably what more people have been talking about than not.
Yes.
So, really kind of knowing your faults. Yeah. So, really, I think this is kind of a lot of different themes in this. And I'm going to start with Abe with trying to reclaim something that was. You notice that Abe kind of is going through this arc of trying to be what he was beforehand. He's trying to reclaim this idea of Abe before he became a father, before he became a teacher. These other things, that he was a radical, that he was a different kind of person. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to go back to being who that was. But the problem with that is that you can never go back to who you were. You can only be who you are.
Yep.
And that's a big problem. And I know that we all do this. So this is something that every one of us as a human being kind of experiences, that we have this instance of wanting to go back and reclaiming something that we used to be.
And for some reason, high school is a popular time. I don't get it.
That's true. So how about you? When has there been something that defined you that you would have liked to reclaim?
Well, definitely not high school.
Okay.
Again, I don't understand. I think what I would have to say is being my confident, self-assured self before all of my mental illness struggles came to light within the last year and a half. I wish I had that back, because right now I have not regained all of it. I'm almost back to where I used to be, but I'm still struggling.
I think it's a little easier for me. I agree that I can understand that. But I think it's a little easier for me, primarily because I don't like the way that I was before. Mm-hmm. I feel like... I mean, I'm not saying, like I didn't like it before. I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. No, I understand. See, it's a complicated thing to... Yeah. But, I don't want to reclaim who I was before. I want to reclaim parts of that. I want to reclaim the confidence in myself and who I was. But it's a matter of getting to know who I am now and having a confidence in that person. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different kind of a thing. Instead of reclaiming, it's more of a understanding of who you are. I would almost argue, though, that maybe your confidence was like a faux confidence. Yeah. It was showy. It wasn't real confidence. I'm pretending that I'm confident. More aggrandizement. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and this is something that we'll talk more about in Dr. Sleep, and that's primarily because, I've read the book and those were the major themes. It was one of those things that came up in my Facebook timeline from when I actually read that book. And I was like, oh, we're going to be talking about that movie soon. So, but, it'll be something that we'll be talking about there too. And yeah, and it's more of a understanding of where your place is. And I think that's what Abe did. Abe did by the end of the season, is trying to understand. He finally understood that his place wasn't in those places anymore. He wasn't a teacher anymore. He wasn't a radical anymore. He was just Abe. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Yeah. I like just Abe. Yeah. He's a cool guy. Well, and then this moves on to the problem that Midge had and Susie, well, almost all the other characters had in the entire show, which was more of glossing over the problems to kind of protect yourself. It's kind of ignoring those big warnings that are going off and saying, no, I'm okay. Yeah, or I got it. It's okay. I got it. Yeah, I got it. And not asking for help. Oh my gosh. I'm having flashbacks to my own personal life. When I was like, no, it's okay. I got it. I got it. Guys, if I ever say that I got it, I don't got it. Marriage tip 101 for all you husbands out there who are listening. If your wife says, I got it, she doesn't have it. Okay. To be fair, there's certain things that when I say I got it, I do really got it. Yes. But when you're saying it angrily and saying it just to get me out of the room. Yes, that's different. Yeah. I agree. So speaking of which, how have you noticed that people protect themselves by ignoring the problem?
Oh my gosh. Well, we were actually rewatching Parks and Rec for like the 100th time. And something that Ben Wyatt does that you have done in the past but are getting better about.
Yeah.
You still sometimes do it, but it's not as frequent. Is like
take sad long baths that make people late for work.
That too. But but just kind of not really talk about the problem, but still hint at the problem.
Yeah.
And just hoping that the other person is going to pick up on that there's a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's, well, and like he says in that episode, is that he grew up with that. That's the way his parents were. That's the way his family was. And that's the way that, my family operates. And I think this is something else that is evident in the not just the Maisels, but also the Weissmans as well, that they do this. Mm-hmm. Like they very much they're not going to talk about the problem. They're just going to hint that there's a problem, but they're not going to talk about the problem.
Oh gosh, everybody, just talk about the problem.
I know.
If you need a mediator, then you need a mediator. That's fine.
Yes.
But at least talk about it.
Well, and that's another plug for therapy right there. I mean, that's what therapy is for. Therapy is for talking about things and getting them out there. Even if it's solo therapy or couples therapy, it's about getting that mediation. It's about finding the problems and actually trying to figure out a way to work together through those problems. Mm-hmm.
Oh, just to let you know, just this week I told my therapist, oh, well, to prove your point, and then I gave her a story, and she's like, yeah, I'm kind of smart about this.
She went to school.
Yeah, she went to school for this. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think this is something, and that confrontation between Midge and her mother, Rose, that, she's basically saying, I'm not a prostitute, I'm a comedian, that whole thing where she's like, well, there's no difference to me. And where they finally have it out, and it's the beginning of that good conversation. You can't leave something there, but it's a beginning of a deeper conversation that people need to have. Mm-hmm. And that's the point of not glossing over problems. Mm-hmm. It's getting the problem out in the open and working on it. Yes.
Even if it's going to be painful, it's one of those things, just got to rip off the Band-Aid, right?
Yeah. Like Susie should have said something in the very beginning, like, Vegas isn't good for me because I've got a gambling problem. Mm-hmm. Or at least, like, when she first realized she had a problem.
Oh my gosh. I totally forgot about that. That was also very cringy.
Yeah. That's why I said both Midge and Susie had these issues. Mm-hmm. Like, Midge had this issue, like, she was overconfident in the fact that, oh yeah, I know Shy. And, none of his band know him the way that I know him.
But and they all know him better than she does.
Yeah. And that's my point, is that, the people who recognized our faults were kind of the heroes of this season. Mm-hmm. I'll get into that later, but, Carol, Keen, was one of my heroes in this show. And I think it's because she recognized her fault. And here we go. I'll bring in the magic about it, is that I think that people who can recognize themselves, yeah, I'm flawed, but it's okay.
And I'm
okay with those flaws. Yeah. Is that, no, I love this. This is something that I love doing. Somebody I love being. I know it's a problematic, but I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. And you just got to learn to love that. Mm-hmm. And I think there's just something magic about those people who can do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy.
Nope.
And that's something that we can talk more about in Dr. Sleep. And I think that, Danny does a fantastic job of it. Well, the book ending, not the movie ending, but that's we'll that episode.
That later. Yeah.
Yes. Lenny Bruce also does this since the very beginning of the show.
He's been very authentic, I think.
Yeah, very authentic. Is very authentic in who he is. And he's like, no, this isn't, being a comedian is not for the faint of heart. It's not an easy thing. It's dirty and it's messy and it sucks, mm-hmm. quite frankly. But he wouldn't do it any other way. And that's magic. It's recognizing being authentically you. So, talk about a time that you have authentically owned yourself, warts and all.
Well, I like to think that I'm very open about like how I parent and the type of mom that I am. You know, I don't sugarcoat it. Like a lot of people like to say that our son is like the perfect kid and like a little angel and that kind of stuff.
They don't live with him.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, he is around strangers. But, you know, the other day he found a tube of Vaseline and like covered himself in it, covered some furniture with it too, then decided to come upstairs and show off his handiwork to me. And he was very proud, you know, like stuff like that, which is normal kid behavior. But again, like, I'm not a perfect mom. He's not a perfect kid. And that's okay. You know, we don't need to be.
Yeah, and this is something that I wrote about a while ago, and something that through season 3 I was working on is trying to understand who I was in and of myself. It's very hard for me to accept my failings, even, you know, in being a parent. Like you've done a fantastic job with doing this, and I acknowledge that, and I really think that you are an authentic parent. And I love that about you.
What do you mean? Please boost my ego some more, sir.
No, I'm just saying to, you know, acknowledge what you just said is that, yeah, there are times that, you know, you're a good mom, that he loves you. Like our son, like, will say that he loves you more than he loves me, but
I think he's just confused.
Yeah, I know. He's going through the weird Oedipal phase that Freud would say that he's going through. So
yeah, like we were hugging the other day and he got real pissed.
He was really jealous. It's okay. But you know, it's more that you own it, that you know who you are as a mom, and you know that he's still going to snuggle with you even though you just put him in timeout. Mm-hmm. Like he's still going to, and that's great. It's hard for me to do things like that because I get so much in my head that I overthink almost everything. And I think that's one of my own feelings that I'm coming to understand about myself, is that I overthink everything. And it's okay to overthink things, but I just need to understand that I'm overthinking, and it's not always the case that the worst possible event is happening.
Yeah, well, and how many people do you know who are like, I hate my parents because they put me in timeout too many times?
Well, that's true.
You know, like, yeah. Just regular, you know, healthy discipline timeouts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. They're very effective. All right. So I don't know how to transition into mine, so I'm just going to say it.
Well, you can only own yourself. You can't own anyone else.
Yeah. Thank you. And you can't expect to own anybody else. And what I'm specifically talking about is the relationship between Midge and Susie this season. Midge has some major issues with Susie, especially when she realizes that her and Sophie Lennon have partnered up. And frankly, she's she's overly jealous, like super jealous, I think to an unreasonable extent. That she has to share Susie, which is just stupid, but whatever. Like,
oh, there was that one line, I should be enough for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just, well, friendship wise, maybe I can see that, but I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But even working relationship wise, no, you can't expect a manager to just have one client.
Yeah.
That's not the reality, you know?
Well, in today's world, too, if you're going to make any money whatsoever, you can't just have one client.
And the fact that Susie spends so much time with Midge, that's even uncommon, you know? Managers typically don't do that. They more, get the ball rolling and kind of just, let them, you know, kind of ride the rest of it out, you know? They're there to make sure you get the job.
Yeah, they're there to manage.
Yeah, and then once everything is going, then they kind of step back from the role. But Susie wasn't allowed to. She had to be there, and Midge was very upset if she missed a show or if she was late for a show or what have you. You know, which is again unfair.
Well, it's the job of the agent and the publicist, and the manager is more of a, just making sure that everything's taken care of. They're the personal producer.
Yeah. Yep. So have you experienced being jealous of seeing one of your friends hanging out with somebody without you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You picked that up for me.
Don't you know? All the time. I would say, like, my best friend growing up, John, like, he always had other friends and would always hang out with his other friends and always kind of got jealous. Like, you know, like, what about me? Why don't you hang out with me? And I mean, even in college, like, we were roommates and he would hang out with the other roommates a lot more than me. And like, they would leave me behind a lot. And yeah, I took it personally and I shouldn't have taken it personally. That's on me. I know it, you know. I think it has a lot to do with my anxiety and with my separation anxiety stuff that, you know, like I wasn't okay on my own because I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think with that being said, it was good for you to live on your own for a while.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm. So you could figure part of it out.
Part of it.
Yeah.
I still had
I didn't say all of it.
coping mechanisms, but yes.
That's why I said part, not all. It's okay. I too, like, still to this day suffer from jealousy issues. I mean, I know within even our, like, parent group that there are certain people that are just closer than others, which is fine. And even I am, like, closer to some of them than others, which again is normal and fine. But still, when I see, like, if I see a group of, like, 4 or more together and I wasn't, like, aware or invited, I get jealous. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I not fun enough? Like, why don't they want me around? Like, I think I'm pretty cool, but whatever. It's okay. I'm something that I'm working on.
Yeah.
It is okay. It is one of my faults, but at least I know that that's the case.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you just got to own it.
Yes. You know, and luckily one of my other friends, like, I'll bring it up and she's like, Kathy, like, calm down. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. And she's right. And then also, too, we have to say that it's, again, completely unreasonable for Midge to expect Susie to not have other clients, like I said, because you can't just expect Susie to rely solely on you for income, too. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not just about time, but it's also about income.
Yeah.
You know, and, well, especially when we find out that Susie has a gambling problem, you know, but still, it's...
Oh, and a bad gambling problem, too.
Yeah. Okay. Side note, don't gamble your friend's income.
Yes.
Period. If it wasn't yours to begin with, you shouldn't touch it. Mm-hmm. End of story. All right. But then how does she expect her, again, to make money and, like, build off a brand for herself? You know, like, this is something that Susie has always wanted. Like, this is her dream. Like, she wants to do this. And in order to get in the biz, she has to build her brand. And yeah, if she has, like, one good person under her belt, yeah, that's going to give her some, like, recognition and build. But again, she's just stuck if Midge just expects her to just not do anything with it, you know? I mean, she made business cards. She typed them out by hand. Well, not by hand. She typed them out.
Yes.
She has one business card.
Well, and, you know, just kudos for the market lingo there.
Yeah.
Build her brand.
Yes, yeah. Well, she is trying to build her brand, you know? She wants to be a bigger name. That's why she goes to the people that she knows who have been in the business longer. You know, she's actively seeking their advice because she wants to do well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I read books about podcasting, that why, you know, we listen to other podcasts is because we're building our brand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I get it.
Yeah. And you really just can't hold your friends hostage, you know, and even though they have... What? Go ahead.
I don't even think a lot of our friends have actually listened to the show. So
yeah. No, but I'm saying, like, for Susie and Midge, like, Midge is holding Susie, like, hostage.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, she's expecting so much from her when, let's be honest, like, Midge doesn't need her around to perform. Mm-hmm. You know? She doesn't need her, like, help for much. So, like, why is she still so, like, clinging to her? I just don't, I think it's because that maybe what Midge went through with her marriage that she just is like, I lost Joel. Like, Joel moved away from me.
Yeah.
I can't stand Susie moving away from me, too. Like, I just can't handle it.
Yeah, she's going through that same kind of abandonment issues kind of thing, so.
Yeah, but again, it's not fair for Susie.
No, it's not.
You can't expect that in a reality. You just can't expect it. Again, you can't hold your friends hostage. It's unfair and it's selfish. But have you felt like you were held hostage by somebody?
Oh yeah. Man, I am just full of your oh yeahs today.
You know what? They're not that bad.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about this the other day. I had a friend growing up that I kind of was like his only friend at the summer camp. And the problem was he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't really do a lot of the other things at camp that a lot of the other kids were doing.
Well, yeah, it's camp.
Yeah, it's camp. And he's in a wheelchair and there's mostly dirt paths everywhere. So.
Oh no, that's so sad. Like,
yeah. So like I would stay with him. I would hang out with him, make sure he got his lunch and everything else. And like, I mean, I feel bad for feeling like I had to be there the entire time, like feeling obligated to do it.
Like you had to be like his caretaker.
Yeah. That I had to be his caretaker because he was a good kid and I did appreciate his friendship. I did appreciate him. And quite honestly, I have no idea where he is at now, but you know, it's one of those things that like it was camp friendship and you know, there were times when I was like, okay, I'm kind of sick of this, but you know, I felt obligated to be there. So
yeah, that's tough. Ooh, I have a good one. So, for those of you who know me in real life, I tend to throw out like a really friendly aura to people, which is not false. Like I am really friendly. But I feel like it's always the super insecure, awkward people who get sense that and get attached to me the most. During training, there was this one particular girl who I originally started hanging out with her because she also expressed that she liked some nerdy things that I do too. And so I was like, okay, well, this is somebody that I could hang out with because we could have similar interests. Well, she talks a lot. And I could not get a word in ever. And it was just so frustrating because I just felt like, just to be honest, I just turned off my ears at one point and just nodded and shook my head because it's like, what's the point of me talking if she's not actually bothering to ask me questions, ask me what my opinion is, and be engaged with me? Like she's more interested in talking at me than talking with me.
Yeah.
And that just annoys the bejesus out of me. But the thing is, she would follow me around like a puppy dog. And everybody else in the training class, they didn't like her. And so, it was hard for me to make friends outside of her because they would just, leave, you know?
Yeah.
And, over time, I did get to know those other people too. And yeah, they had the same issues as well, but I'm just too nice about it, you know? They're like, oh, Kathy, we thought you were somebody, completely different. And I'm just like, no, this is really me. But I felt like I was a hostage. I didn't want to leave her behind because I didn't want her to feel sad and left out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was also left out of the larger group because I was with her. So it's
I mean, that's understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Am I being too selfish in that regard?
Well, and I think this is something that it's part of being authentically you is knowing your limits and knowing your boundaries and knowing to say, hey, you know what? I want to go over here. I want to go do something else. It's okay. It's okay to say that. It's okay to be like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come with me if you want to? Great. But otherwise I'm going to go do this. Yeah.
But the thing is though, she would follow me and then everybody else would leave, you know?
Well,
at least I made friends with them afterwards. But still, I felt kind of lonely during training because it was everybody and then us two.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
All right, so let's move on to our Saints of Show. For me, was obviously the bassist that is very loosely based on a real-life bassist of the same era. And I know that there's a big controversy around it, but I believe the character from the show was very authentic. And I think...
Well, as a character.
Well, as a character.
Yeah.
No, and that's what I think earned her the sainthood for the season, was that she was authentically her, and that she owned her faults, she owned what she was and who she was, and that was a beautiful thing. I think when a human being can do that, I think it is saintly to me. It's a miracle. And I think the other thing is being able to reach out to Midge when noticing that, yeah, she was maybe feeling a little left out, feeling a little bit, like she wasn't, well, she was abandoned because Susie wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And so being able to reach out to her and say, hey, come have some dinner with me, come hang out with me. Mm-hmm. I think that's a miracle too, because reaching outside of your comfort zones and reaching out to somebody who you wouldn't normally just like, hey,
hang out with,
let's hang out.
Yeah.
Is a miracle in and of itself, I think.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. For my saint, I'm going to go with the very obvious one and say Shy Baldwin. And I'm giving him the sainthood because that last episode was gut-wrenching. And his feelings are so hurt right now. And everybody can understand why, I believe. And I know that, this, in the era that it is for the TV show, it just wasn't something on Midge's radar. Like, she didn't really understand how dangerous it was. Like, to her, it was just jokes and it was just funny. But really, it's for him, it's danger.
No, yeah, it's a life or death situation.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody figures it out in his home community in Harlem, it's over. Yeah, it's over.
He loses all of his support.
Yeah.
And even though she didn't flatly say out loud that he is interested in men, she was very much indicating that he was interested in men by the jokes that she was using, like how he was very interested in shoes and interested in his looks and how he took longer to get ready than everybody else.
And equated him with Dorothy. And at that time, that was a common, friend of Dorothy was a common thing to call somebody who was gay. Or is gay. And during that era is what I meant by was.
Yeah. I understand. So anyway, I just wanted to give him the sainthood because dang, that's a lot of feelings to be going through right now. And having somebody who you thought was a friend do something like that without even taking your feelings into consideration, it sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Well, and I mean, even Sterling K. Brown, like that, his character was just at the end there. He knew it was a bad situation. Like, he's like, I'm sorry. You hurt him. I'm his manager. I'm his guy. Mm-hmm. So sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Now that we're on a downer note.
Let us know who your saint of show was for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel season 3. Let them know how they can let us know.
So you can go ahead and contact us at Facebook and Instagram at Patron Saints at Pop Culture. And then also we have our website, patronsaints@popculture.org.
Yep. And don't forget to review and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platforms. And with all of that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.